Hi, this is Mahesh Ravi, and in this video, we're going to take a look at advanced prototyping with Protopie. Before we jump in and start with Protopie, you need to understand what is the difference between rapid prototyping and advanced prototyping. So, when you are making a design, when you are making a UX product, and you are creating a prototype for it, there are two ways that you can actually show the prototype. One is a rapid prototyping, where you're just showing the basic navigation, basic connections, and how things actually work. But in advanced prototyping, you're showing the micro interactions as well. You're going to show a much closer to final version of your app in advanced prototyping. Figma, Adobe XD, Sketch, these can be rapid prototyping tools, and there are some advanced prototyping tools like Protopie or Bravo Vision as well. So we're going to talk about how to create a design in Figma and then take it to Protopie to create an advanced prototype. So for this, we are going to use a very, very, very simple example of a game, how to create an interactive game in Protopie. So let's get started. So there are three things that you have to do first to get started with Protopie. First thing is to go to Protopie website and download Protopie Studio. So you can go to the website protopie.io. So if you're using a Mac, download the Mac version. If you're using Windows, download the Windows version and install it on your system. That's the first thing to do. The second thing is to go to Figma and go to your plugin section, look for Protopie, and install that plugin in your Figma. So you can just go, once your Figma is open, you can go to plugins, find more plugins, look for Protopie, and then install that. That's the second thing. And the third thing that you have to do is go to your phone and then look for Protopie player in your app store. So this can be Google Play or App Store. You can download this player on your phone and you are ready to go. So once you've done all of this, you're ready to import your Figma designs into Protopie. So the first thing that you have to do for this process, second stage of this, is to ensure that your Protopie application is open in your desktop. So keep this application open before importing a project from Figma, because if the application is not open, the import might not work. So keep it open, minimize the window, go back to Figma, and then choose the design that you want to export. So if, to show you an example, I have this particular frame, right? I have created this frame. And what I want to do is that I've created this keyboard mini key thing here as well, and there is a car. So these are the things that I want to make it interactive, right? So when somebody is actually clicking on this car should actually move. And so it's a design that I made for this particular tutorial. There is no purpose or function of this, but it could be an interesting way to interact, an immersive experience, and sort of like a micro interaction which happens here, right? So what we are going to do is that we are going to export this to Protopie. So select the frame in here, and I have named the frame as game, and it has these many layers in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the frame, go to plugins, and click on Protopie, and it will bring up the export window. And only if the app is open, you will get this button activated. So ours is activated. I'm going to click export, and it will open the Protopie app, and it will show you the progress of export here. And we are done, right? So we are now in Protopie, and our design is already here. We can see that on the left side, there is something called scenes. So this is basically the frame that we have imported. So we have only one scene here. So to make it simple to understand, a frame in Figma is called a scene in Protopie. We have this scene, and whatever layers that we have built in the scene is actually here. Now, I did a mistake while exporting. I didn't name these keys properly. Everything is actually called the up button because I duplicated it and I changed the rotation. So what we're going to do is we'll change the name of this. Just double click this to change the name. So this is the right button. And this is the left button. Double click on this and change it. So this is a group. We have already grouped it in Figma. So it's already, it's also a group in here. And we have this text and everything. And I want the car layer to be on top of everything here. So I'm going to take the car layer and drag and drop it on top of all the text layers here. So it's very easy to manage and rearrange the layers, just like in Figma here. So on the next block, you can see your work document, right? So this is where you can select the elements and you can start working on it. So when you select an element here, you can see the inspector window actually shows all the properties and parameters of that particular element. So you can change this. You can make it into an editable file here. So this is a text file, but this was a text file in Figma, but here it's not a text file right now. So if you want to edit the text, you want to convert it into an editable file and then it becomes a text file. We don't want to edit anything, but you can do that as well. But this is not actually for designing. The Protopie is not actually meant for designing anything. So it's only for prototyping. So it's better to actually make your designs and everything ready in Figma and bring it here. So when you select the elements, the parameters can be found here, the opacity and things like that, which is there. And the most important block in there is this section where you can see you can add interactions here, right? Add interactions. So there are two aspects of interactions. You can add a trigger. What triggers the interaction and what's a response to that interaction? So when you tapping is a trigger. When you tap on it, what happens to that element? That's the response, right? So you can actually trigger that in here. So what we are going to do is we want to say that when somebody clicks on this button, the up arrow, the car should go up, right? So that's the action is tapping on this, and the response is the car moves up. So we're going to do that, right? So select the up button. You can see that it's selected. Click add a trigger. So you can see that unlike Figma has very few triggers, but this has a lot of triggers in here. This is actually very useful. So we'll go to tap. We want people to tap on that button, and then what happens to it can be seen as a subset to it. And there is nothing assigned to it. So there is a tap and there is no response there. So we want to say that when somebody taps on the up button, you can see which layer is selected. When somebody taps on the up button, we want the car layer to move, right? It's a different layer. So we're going to click on the plus button and we want to say move. These are the responses. So tapping is the trigger and these are the responses. So we want it to move, and we can see the move parameters here. By default, it is showing the up button, but we don't want the up button to move. We want the car layer to move. So we're going to change this to the car layer. So when somebody taps on the up button, the layer that moves is the car. And now we can see move to where. So we can give a precise X and Y axis, a location, a pixel value, or we can say that it can move by this many pixels. So that is what I'm going to use. And I want to make this car move up a bit. So what I'm going to give is a value here on the Y axis, because Y actually represents vertical. And I'm going to give it a value like -60. So we have given that value here. So when somebody taps on this button, the car is going to move to -60. And you can see that what is the mode of that movement, right? Is it easing in and easing out? So that's actually the best way. The car actually starts a little slow. It takes up the speed, and then towards the end, it gradually slows out. So that's a good thing, but we can see there are a lot of other ways to handle that animation as well. But right now it actually works. we can see the duration here. So how long will it take for the car to move? Right now it's set to 0.2 seconds. We can actually change this to 1 second to make it a little more visible. So that's 1 second it takes to move to this pixel. That will be somewhere here. We can quickly see how this looks like if you click on the preview button. So we have the preview, and somebody taps on this button, the car is going to move to 60, right? So that is actually a good thing. And if you keep tapping, if the user keeps tapping on it, it moves another 60 like that, right? So that's how it is going to work. This is how a micro interaction happens. So that's looking good. And maybe you can change the duration a little bit. I'm going to make it to -5, so it doesn't have to be that slow. Let's quickly preview it. So it's going like that, which is, it's okay. Now, what we want to do is the other setting, like what about this button then? So what will happen if you click on this button? So we'll do the same thing here. We're going to select this button and we'll add a new trigger there. So add a trigger, somebody taps on the right button, it should move, but what layer should move? It is the car. The car should move by, so here we are going to actually work on the X axis. So put 60 in the X value here. Let's preview it. So if somebody clicks on the up button, it's going to go like that. If somebody clicks on this button, it's going to go like that, right? So we have created this. Now, there's a slight bit of modification that I want to do to this, the right animation, right? Because it is actually going sideways. It's okay, but I want the animation to be a little more realistic. I want it to rotate a bit to the right and then move to the right side. So to do that, I'm going to delete this move trigger right now. I don't want it. I will just create it later. But before moving, I want it to have a rotate parameter. So when somebody clicks on this button, it should rotate first. So the car should rotate in what axis, right? So rotate by maybe I will say 30. So let's preview it. Somebody clicks on this button, it's going to rotate a bit, right? So that's actually good. And it takes 0.2. That's also good. Now, after that, it should move as well because it is the right arrow, right? So it should move as well. It should take a rotation, a small rotation, and then it should move a bit. So under this, you can see that there is another response that you can add. So I'm going to stack another response here. So I'm going to just make it move as well. The same thing. The car layer should move by, and the x-axis, I'm going to give 60. So two functions are going to happen here, right? It will rotate and it will move. So it is going to happen simultaneously because it's overlapping. So if you want the rotation to happen first, and then after rotation, if it wants to move, you can just drag this and time it accordingly, right? So now the rotate is going to happen, and after the rotation, the movement is going to happen. But I want it to happen simultaneously. I'll keep it like that. Click preview, and let's see how that works, right? So it's going to go like this. But I want another thing as well. I want it to rotate back to the previous position after this movement is completed, right? So I'm going to add another rotate, and I want the car to rotate back to the previous position, right? So what I will do is I want it to rotate by -30. So this is the value that we have given. So after the movement, it will rotate and come back to the previous position. So I'll do it towards the end of this animation, something like this. Let's again quickly preview it. So if it moves like this and it goes like that and comes back to the position, and it will do this, right? So it works perfectly there, right? So this is how you can stack multiple responses with one trigger here. We'll do the same thing for this as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this button. Now add a trigger, tap on it, and it rotates first to the other axis right now. Make sure that the layer that is rotating, you're always changing it to the car layer. So we want to rotate it by negative 30. So it is going to go in the other direction right now. And we are doing it for that. So we'll do the other move animation as well. So move, and it needs to move 0.5, move by here, we'll mention negative 60. That's fine. And at the end of it, we want it to rotate back. So we will keep it like this and rotate the car by positive 30. So it will be, coming back to the previous position as well. Let's quickly preview this again. So if we move the car, it's going to go like that. If we move to the left, it will go like this. If we move to the right, it will go like that. So this is how Protopie works, right? So once you're done with your animation and everything, you can send it to your device. So you already have installed Protopie player, and you can actually see that on your device and how this basically works. You can also create a very interesting thing called handoff. So if you save this file, so if I'm going to save it again, so it's been saved to the cloud. You can start recording the interactions. And you can stop it. It shows your entire recording, and you can copy the link and share it with your developers. So I hope this was useful. Thank you.